Okay, so we're introducing something new today, something that's going to help us with solving equations as well. Let's go over some vocabulary real quick. So when I'm looking at what's called an expression is anything that has variables, multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting without the equal sign, I'm saying. Those are called expressions. We have what's called a term, which is a single a variable or a constant that's separated by adding and subtracting. So for instance, this one has two terms, 4d and the -9, okay? The variable is the letter within the expression, so that's any letter of the alphabet can be used. The number in front of the variable is something called the coefficient, something you might have been familiar with last year, but coefficient. And any number by itself is technically, without a variable attached to it, is called a constant. So coefficient is a number in front of the variable. A number by itself without a variable is called a constant. And so what we're learning today is how to simplify expressions, which means something called combine like terms. When I combine like terms, what I mean by that is I'm going to combine my variables together, which are the letters, and then I'm going to combine my constants together, which are the numbers without the letters. What you have to be careful with is watching your signs. So for instance, if I look at this example right here, okay? My variables are 9x, positive 16x, and anytime you have a variable without a number in front of it, there's an invisible 1. So this one has a negative 1x there. Then we have our constants, which are negative 2, positive 8, and positive 10. Notice that I use squares around my variables and circles around my constants. That's going to come in handy here in a second, okay? And what I'm going to do with all of those is add them together. So I'm going to add all my x's together, and then I'm going to add all my constants together. But what you have to be careful with is watching your signs, because if they are the same sign, which means if they're both positive or both negative, you add them together and then keep the same sign. If they are different signs, which means if one's positive, one's negative, then you're actually going to subtract them. And I'll show you what I mean. So let me show you number 1. First things first, I'm going to put squares around my variables. So this is 4p and positive 8p. Notice those are the only p's left. So watch your signs. Are they the same sign or different? The same, because they're both positive. So that means I'm going to add 4 plus 8 is 12. And then they're both positive, so positive. And I keep the variable with it, so 12p. Then you have your constants. Now the only constant here is positive 10. There's no other one. So I'm just going to bring it down. So it's plus 10. Let's move on to number 2. So variables first. I put squares around positive 2x and negative 14x. Now they are different because one's positive, one's negative. So I'm actually going to subtract 14 and 2. 14 minus 2 is 12. And since 12 is larger, or 14 is larger, it's going to be negative 12, and the x stays with it. Now I'm going to do the constants. I have positive 12 and positive 8. Since they're both positives, that means I'm going to add them. They're both the same, so I add. And so 12 plus 8 is 20. And since they're both positive, I keep the same sign, so positive 20. Moving on, number 3. I have a variable all by itself, so there's an invisible 1 in front. I'm going to put squares around positive 1a and negative 4a, because now they're different. One's positive, one's negative, which means I actually subtract. So 4 minus 1 is 3. And since 4 is larger, it's negative 3a. Then I'm going to do my constants, negative 7 and positive 2. Well, since they're different, that means I'm actually going to subtract. So 7 minus 2 is 5. And since 7 is larger, it's negative 5. So negative 3a minus 5. And then we continue. The x here doesn't have a coefficient, so I'm going to put an invisible 1 there. I'm going to put squares around all the x's. So 1x, positive 4x, and negative 8x. So this one has 3. So let's do 2 at a time, okay? Here I have 1 and 4, which they're both the same, which means I add them. 4 plus 1 is 5. So I have 5x. Okay, and they're both positive, so positive. Now I'm going to add it to negative 8x. So since one's positive, one's negative, that actually means I subtract. So 8 minus 5 is 3. Since 8 is larger, it's negative, and then the x goes with it. Now the only constant in this problem is positive 4, so I'm just going to bring it down. So plus 4. All right, if I look at number 5, I have a variable without a number, so I'm going to put an invisible 1 in front of it. I'm going to put squares around my variables, so 12x and positive 1x. Those are the only two. Since they're both positive, I'm going to add them together, so 12 plus 1 is 13, and the x stays with it. Now I'm going to do my constants, negative 5 and negative 3. Since they're both negatives, that means I'm actually going to add them together, so 5 plus 3 is 8. And according to my little cheat sheet, if they're the same sign, I add them and keep the same sign. So since they're both negative, I'm going to keep it negative. So 13x minus 8. And that's your answer. Then we just continue. I have an invisible 1 in front of this b value. So I'm going to put a box around 10b and positive 1b. Since they're both positive, I'm going to add. So 10 plus 1 is 11b. And then I'm going to put circles around my constants. So 7, positive 7, and negative 14. Now, since one's positive, one's negative, that makes them different, which means I'm actually going to subtract. So 14 minus 7 is 7. And since 14 is larger, it's going to be negative 7. So 11b minus 7. Number 7, I'm going to put an invisible 1 in front. So this is negative 1p and negative 2p. Since they're both negative, I'm actually going to add them together. So 2 plus 1 is 3, but I keep it negative p. And my constants are negative 3 and positive 1. Since one's negative, one's positive, that makes them different, which means I'm actually going to subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. And since 3 is bigger and it's negative, it's going to be negative 2. And that's it. Number 9. I'm going to put boxes around my x's here. So a box around negative 6 and a box around negative 11. Since they're the same, they're both negative, I'm actually going to add them together. So 11 plus 6 is 17. Got to keep it negative, keep them the same, and don't forget the x. I'm going to put circles around my constants. So I have negative 12, positive 5, and positive 3. So let's start with these two. Negative 12 and positive 5, they're different. So I'm actually going to subtract. 12 minus 5 is 8. Nope, sorry, 9. 12 minus 5. Nope, that's not 9 either. Oh, goodness. Sorry. 2, 3, 7. So 12 minus 5 is 7. And since 12 is larger, it's negative 7. And now I'm going to do negative 7 and positive 3. So since they're different, I'm going to subtract. 7 minus 3 is 4. And since 7 is larger, it's negative 4. Tough one, sorry. And then here on number 10, I'm going to put an invisible 1 there in front of the y. So I've got negative 1. Put squares around negative 1, positive 7, and positive 2. So we have 3. Let's do these two first. Negative 1 and positive 7. One's negative, one's positive, so that means I'm actually going to subtract because they're different. 7 minus 1 is 6. And since 7 is larger, it's positive 6. Don't forget the y. Now I'm going to add that to 2y. Since 6y and 2y are both positive, that means I am actually going to add. So 6 plus 2 is 8, and it's going to stay positive, and don't forget the y. Now I have negative 6 and negative 10. Since they're both negative, that means they're both the same. I'm actually going to add them together. So 6 plus 10 is 16. And since they're negatives, I got to keep it negative, keep the same sign. So a little bit of what you already know, but just adding your variables together and your constants. Now, you can pause the video here if you feel like you're good to go. I'm going to show you what this looks like on geometry. So like when I see shapes. Look at number 11. We're going to write and simplify an expression that represents the perimeter of the rectangle. Think about what perimeter means from 5th and 6th grade. Perimeter means adding all of the sides. Well, how many sides does a rectangle have? It has 4. So why do they give me 2 sides and not the other 2? Well, this is because you're supposed to know that if this is 12y, this side is 12y. If this is 7.5, this is 7.5. Now, perimeter means add all the sides. So I'm going to do 12y plus 12y plus 7.5 plus 7.5. So then if I do my squares and circles now, squares around my 12y and positive 12y, they're the same, so I'm actually going to add. 12 plus 12 is 24. Don't forget the y. And then I'm going to put circles around my constants, which is 7.5 plus 7.5. So 7.5 plus 7.5 is 15.0, which is just 15. And since they're positive, I got to keep it positive, so plus 15. Number 12, if the triangle was equilateral, equilateral means same on all three sides, write and simplify an expression for the perimeter of the triangle. So perimeter, remember, it means around the triangle. Equilateral means all sides are the same. So all sides are 4x minus 3. So if I do squares and circles, I'm going to put squares around my 4x's. So I have 4x plus 4x plus 4x. They're all positive, which means I add them together. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12, so 12x. And then I put circles around my constants, -3, -3, and -3. Now they're all negative, right? So that means I'm going to add them all together. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. But since they're all negative, my answer is also negative. Another one without a picture. A rectangle has a length of x plus 5, so I'm going to draw a picture, and a width of 2x minus 9. Write and simplify an expression to find the perimeter of the rectangle. Well, perimeter, like we just saw in number 11, is if this side is x plus 5, this side is x plus 5. If this side is 2x minus 9, this side is 2x minus 9. So now I'm going to add all my sides together, which means 2x plus 1x plus 2x plus 1x. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 6. So 6x. And then we have -9 plus 5 plus 5 and -9. So I got to add them together. Got to be careful here though. -9 plus 5, if I add them together, they're actually different, which means I subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. And since 9 is bigger is -4. Same thing over here. 5 plus -9 is 4, but since 9 is bigger is -4. And when I add them together, -4 plus -4 equals -8. So just how you can see adding variables and constants in perimeter.